I41 male have been a lurker on this subreddit for quite some time, but never posted a last week post by another user. On here reminded me of my own story, so today I'm going to share my own story of infidelity as the betrayed spouse. Backstory: about 7 years ago, my wife, then 33 female, finally confessed to having an affair. I found their emails flirtatious, suggestive, but nothing that suggested they ever met in person. She then trickled truth for weeks before finally coming clean about the AP. It was a roller coaster ride, and I had a feeling she withheld a significant amount of information. I had a strong suspicion the affair was physical, despite her swearing. Otherwise, I guess some men would have walked away at this point, but I needed something more substantial before I threw my marriage away, so I kept my senses on high alert and kept digging. Then one weekend, my suspicions were confirmed when I snooped in her laptop she had accidentally left unlocked. I discovered the flight confirmation emails for her and her AP for the trips she took with him when she claimed to be visiting her family who lived a few states away. She'd been leaving me home alone eating microwave meals while she was screwing him all over. It was gut-wrenching, but that was my cue to leave. I didn't bother to find if she had ended the affair like she said she did. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. It didn't matter to me. She appeared to be doing everything right by then and seemed remorseful. But my biggest fear was that had I stayed few years down the line, what if she reversed to her old ways? Then what I'd do? I didn't want to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. I never breathed any of this to my ex. I kept my mouth shut and kept attending the marriage counselling sessions and taking on the blame at the sessions for driving the ex to her affair now. With the divorce looming over, I had to take a look at the finances throughout our real relationship and marriage. I was the bigger contributor to our finances. She had over a $100,000 in college debt because she'd given up 2 expensive degrees midway before getting her human resources degree finally. So a majority of her income went into settling her debt. And whatever was left over, she spent on herself and utilities, and on her affair. As I found out, I paid our rent and car payments in the majority of our bills. At this point, I'd accepted that I'd be ordered to pay alimony and would need to give up half my car. I was fine with it, but what I was not ready to part with was the $120,000 I had in my bank. It was the result of my blood, sweat, and tears. I had busted my ass for 7 years for that money. It was supposed to go in a down payment when we were to find our dream home. Where we were supposed to start our family, I was not about to give my ex a $60,000 reward for screwing another guy behind my back and ruining my life plans. So over the next few months, I developed a gambling habit as a coping mechanism for her betrayal. I went to Vegas twice and blew up $20,000 each time. In actuality, I stocked them at the safe at my parents' house. They were aware and were fully supportive of me. I kept visiting local casinos frequently. I barely spent anything at them, but used up the free credits at the slot machines. But each time I withdrew money and made sure to hand them over to my dad, who drove by to collect them, or went by their house myself. This continued for the next 8 months, and my ex was sick with worry that I was driving us to the brink of bankruptcy. All I said to her was that she had her share of fun with her affair, so it's my turn now after I drain my account. Till there was under $10,000 left, I hired a lawyer with the remaining amount, told her I couldn't move past the affair. Despite all the therapy and that I'm filing for divorce, moved out and had her served. She tried everything from begging to guilt-tripping to threatening to get me to take her back. When all of that failed, she got vindictive. Her lawyer tried to stick me with half her college debt, but that failed because she did all that before we were married. She then tried to ask for an atrocious amount of alimony, but she was granted a much smaller amount, which I was fine with. I had to sell my car and give half of it to her. She grasped onto whatever money and assets and tried to get as big a share as she could. She was distraught when she learned I had gambled away all of our savings and she got angry that she'd have to pay her debt all on her own. I told her maybe she could get AP to pitch in, and she very nearly lost it right there outside the courtroom. Sometime after the divorce was finalized, I started depositing the money in the safe back into my accounts, little by little. But mainly, I used the safe money on my expenses instead of using my salary. That way, I was avoiding making any large suspicious deposits. I also bought a car with the safe money. Few years ago, I also bought my dream house, but the highlight of it all is that I've stayed away from any committed relationship whatsoever. I've had my share of casual sex and flings, but other than that, I have no intention of committing to a woman for a lifetime. The takeaway from my story to all the betrayed men is that if your woman cheated emotionally or physically, be gone, just be gone. Story 2. I'm 30. Now, wife is 28. My story starts about 4 or 5 years ago. My wife used to be a stay-at-home mum for my two, at the time, kids. I worked all the time and was building a small business when it wasn't working. It was hard, with only one income, just to get by. But we were making it on New Year's Eve of 2014. We decided we were going to separate. We'd been having terrible fights for months, and neither of us really liked the other person anymore. After just a few days, it was clear to me that I didn't want to split, and I had to come to terms with the fact that my absence was causing the majority of our problems. I dealt with a lot of issues at that time. I was not a good husband. I wasn't there. I didn't help with the kids enough, or the house I wanted to be elsewhere. I was taking her for granted, and she deserved better. I admitted this to myself and deeply felt that I needed to change things. It was hard to admit that, but I'm glad I did. I couldn't change myself in a week, like I thought. I'm still working today, but there was a lot of growth in those first few months. 3 months after the split, she wanted a job. She was isolated and needed some social time. I was all for it. Not long after she started working, I started to get that gut feeling. Never could prove anything. Though we were back to having problems, I told myself I was being insecure, irrational. There was a guy she worked with that I guess I was threatened by in response to this. I would visit her at work. She was a server, and so was he when we went out to eat. I specifically asked for him to be our server, made halfway friendly with this guy. We were still having problems around July, when we had another big talk, and I admitted to myself that I still had some growing to do. I was completely miserable, felt like my wife didn't love me anymore, and I was trying everything and anything to get her attention. My business was growing, and we were better off financially than ever before. By all my accounts, we should have been completely blissful. It should be noted that intimacy had been completely cut out. So after July, we made peace and even decided to have a baby and started trying. Life was great. I had my wife back, and I felt loved, and it was good. She continued to work there in February of the next year. I get up to use the bathroom, and her phone dings. She's got a Kik account, and she's been messaging. I didn't know about her Kik, and she's only got one contact. It was him. Of course, she hadn't completely quit working, but she was not going in, like she had been. But the messages I read between them are typical couples arguments about not seeing each other. He's upset with her about not seeing each other as much at work, and she's telling him she's sorry. They each say they love each other, etc. I confronted her immediately. She explains the affair. He chased her, and she liked the attention, etc. She says she never slept with him, only one kiss. We make up. I'm extremely glad I found out when I did, because no way would I have considered reconciling. In July, I blamed myself for being so hard to be with. I pushed her into it, etc. I've never truly gotten over it. It still eats at me today. Otherwise, we've had a very strong marriage for a long time until a couple of months ago, when I started to get that gut feeling again. I found a number in her phone. My job allows me the capacity to search and find whoever it belongs to. It's, of course, him. I confronted her yesterday. She denies it. I really don't have any proof to show her either. She says she's never had his phone number. She swears it's maybe possible. I looked him up and wrote it down. But I'm 99.9%. I got it from her phone a few months ago. I got it and stashed it, then forgot about it. Just looked him up earlier this week. I find two things hard to believe. She was texting this guy for 10 months, telling each other they were in love and never slept together. She was texting this guy who she was in love with for 10 months and never talked on the phone. Once, I've never felt like I got the whole story, and that bothers me still today. I just wanted to have her back and never let go. I was scared to death our marriage was over. I haven't left because there's a tiny part of me that thinks maybe I didn't find that number in her phone. Maybe I looked him up and forgot. It's been a while. She's not talking to me right now. She says she made a mistake back then and feels like she's constantly paying the price for it. She's not. It literally never comes up. She says she hasn't talked to him since back then. I have no proof to show her there's a stone in my gut that won't go away. Exactly like it was last time. I'm pretty much obsessing over it. Update, it's been no contact since I confronted her Thursday morning, other than necessary conversation. I'm staying at our house. I'm not going to beg her to talk. If she wants to fine, I'll talk. But I'm going to see a lawyer Monday after work, no matter what. I'm going to get a polygraph scheduled when they open back up Monday. I'm starting with divorce proceedings, regardless of what happens between now and Monday. I've already got an appointment. I never cancel appointments. See what happens. I can't thank this community enough for all the support wife and AP are screwing kiss equals in cheaters. Handbook, gather all evidence of infidelity. This includes installing spy cam throughout the house, tracking her movements with GPS devices, and hiring a private investigator to monitor her activities. The goal is to collect concrete evidence without confronting her directly. Then hire a merciless lawyer and annihilate her in the divorce, seek the maximum custody of the children, and minimum alimony in the divorce proceedings, maintain a normal facade until serving divorce papers. Then use the leverage you have to get everything you want. Good luck. Now for some comments. You never got the whole story, but she was texting some guy for 10 months, having couple fights about not getting to see each other, saying I love you, and they only had one kiss. Come on, guy. It in your gut. They likely still are. So she says otherwise. Liars lie. Cheaters cheat, cheaters lie. She is lying. I think that stone in your gut is the anxiety and the broken trust that's been left behind from what's been done and cannot be undone. I believe you should both either sit and have a real sit-down discussion to fully communicate the issues of everything, or seek the help of coos therapy if you don't want to or can't sort it out on your own. Hopefully this will uncover what needs to be done, and I wish you the best of luck.